Okay, may we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Fig?
Here.
Councilmember Hensley?
Here.
Councilmember Schnock?
Here.
Mayor Breeze?
Here. Mayor Pro Tem Sharkey is on a well-deserved vacation. Last I heard, he was in Louisiana. Okay, we have the agenda before us.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Item number 5 is open forum, and I have a number of cards. The top card here is Mr. Gama, Stephen Gama. The next speaker will be Eileen Tracy.
Thank you, Mayor Breeze, council members, and administrative staff. This weekend I received the Consumer Confidence Report for 2015 on the water. I think all the residents of Hueneme received it. And I read through it, and I'm taken back a bit by some inaccuracies in it. And the most important one is it says here that PHWA's water treatment plant uses 2 different types of state-of-the-art membrane filtration technologies. It's my understanding that those aren't being used because the water quality is so poor that it clogs up the filters and it can't be used.
That's correct.
So, with all due respect, I'm wondering why this report didn't seize the opportunity to further inform the residents of the ongoing problems with the water. The Star reported earlier this year that the water's brownish, it smells, it leaves a slime behind. And again, I'm just looking at this report and I'm like, is this done intentionally or is it just an oversight? Regardless, I just think it's unacceptable considering where we're at with the water. And I just hope that whatever the case may be, that the city can engage itself in good communication, particularly on the water. And I'm just, as I close, the other thing that's interesting, there's a discussion on the second page about bottled water versus municipality water, and oftentimes municipal water is better quality than bottled water because the requirements are stricter on municipalities than companies that bottle water. So with what I said earlier, it's like, well, wait a minute, are you trying to tell us that the water is high quality, higher than bottled water, but you're saying that it goes through this 2 filtration systems, but it's not? So I'm just wondering what was the thinking behind releasing this report with those inaccuracies. Thank you.
Your comments are well taken. Eileen Tracy, there you are. Following Eileen will be Casey Graham.
Mayor Breeze and members of the council. My name is Eileen Tracy. I live at Hueneme Bay. And for those of you who, I'm just going to repeat what I said at the water agency, so if you want to go to the restroom, this would be the good time. So I got the Consumer Confidence Report, and usually I ignore things like this, but about a week before, I had bought this water testing kit. And I accidentally took the city, because I have an RO system, and I wanted to figure out if I need to put new filters in, because I know your water's dirty. So I accidentally took the Hueneme water instead of the RO water. This is an EPA measurement, and it says anything above 500 is not drinkable. And if it's above 600, it's highly contaminated. So when I put the tester into the water, it came back at 637. And so I was like, oh my God. Now I find out that anybody in Southwest California gets a break, and it's okay to poison your people like that because they know we have water problems. But I was really alarmed, so then I went and looked up this confidence report, and it only added more things because I just think some things should be highlighted more for the residents. The one about we have chloramines in the water that'll kill your fish, so don't use it to fill your fish bowls. And then my new friend Chris looked up what's a chloramine. It's a carcinogenic. So apparently it'll kill the residents too, slower. So already I was alarmed with this thing and now that, so. Then on the report, right in the middle of the graph, under the field called bromides, it says everything is highest RAA. And on the back, no, I guess I don't know what RAA is, but I figure it's probably no good. So it says the city of Port Hueneme is responsible for providing high-quality drinking water. And if you're, oh, that's the other thing. So these chloramines in the water will also fill your pipes in your house with cancer generating, or lead, sorry. Okay, well, I guess I just used my time up. So.
You still have some time.
Oh, you ready for more abuse?
Yeah, keep going.
What a guy. So I know what the RAA is, but it doesn't make me comfortable. The bromate. And this thing was measuring total dissolved solids. That's what a TDS meter does. So I am really concerned, and I sit at the water agency, and some of the water agency directors were really, really knowledgeable, and I learned more things to worry about. But I would really like to see, and because I had heard you're not using the membranes, that means no wonder your water is filthy. And mine, when I did my RO water, it measured 63, which isn't the best, but it's the next best. So I think it's a serious condition in this city. There's a lot of old folks like me at Hueneme Bay, and you wouldn't like to see us die of cancer, and you wouldn't like to see our fish die, I'm sure. So I would like you to put a sense of urgency and put it on the agenda. Ask the agency to bring some comparative reports on how to straighten this mess out and keep our residents healthy. So that's all I'll say for now.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. Okay, Casey, you're next. Following Casey is Tracy Phillips. Any other reports?
Not a report, Mr. Mayor, just to kind of tag on to what Councilmember Schnapp was talking about with the Port Hueneme Water Authority. I would ask that we direct or request our city manager, upon his return, it's not urgent, but to agendize a report. Where is the Port Hueneme Water Authority in exploring these options? This is something that, while I was a member of that agency, I have requested that we explore what choices we have and what we can make available to the residents. Everything from stop treating our water because actually they're being charged for treatment that they're not receiving. So perhaps that we could go back to either a blended or a non-blended arrangement with Metro Water in combination with United Conservation District Water, and leave it to the homeowners to decide the quality of water they wish to receive, and they can make investments at their own point of delivery through their own reverse osmosis systems, filtration, to the level of tasteability, if you will, and aesthetics that they're willing to pay for. So I think this is given the fact that Councilmember Schnapp brought this up, and we heard somebody earlier in the evening in open forum that we're charging folks for things that they're not receiving, and we need to look at these other alternatives. We need to understand the viability of a double RO system, given the fact that we can't even operate under the conditions that we have at present, and there's no reason to believe that we're going to see any relief in the near future. I think we need to take a look at the fact that there have been past charges passed on to our ratepayers in Port Hueneme for water that the city has been using and not paying for, and passing those expenses on to the public at large. I see in the budget that there are changes in the costing of variable and fixed expenses. Well, how does that translate then to charges to the end user? We can celebrate the fact that our costs are coming down, but are the people at the end of the line, are they receiving the benefit of those savings? So there's a broad set of issues here that, and then the last thing was the consumer confidence report. And I have to agree is that we're telling people we got this reverse osmosis system, and yet we're not using it. It's not online. It's a little deceiving to folks. And then comparing that to bottled water, when in fact they're not getting filtered water to begin with from our plant. There's just so many issues here that I think it deserves attention in an advertised way. And so my request would be that this be agendized for full discussion, and for that matter, maybe it requires a town hall meeting, so there's a broader audience and people can weigh in on this equation and understand the options that we have available to us and the constraints that we have and being able to deliver higher quality water. But ultimately, it comes down to what are you willing to pay for? And I think it's timely we have that discussion.
If I can just
Councilmember
make a
Scott.
couple of comments. It wasn't until United Water came out this afternoon to report to us that it's a nitrate problem, and we came to the conclusion in our discussion that nitrates are an end result of ag using chemicals to treat the plants. And so what we're basically getting in the wells is a result of what the previous users have left, so we're dealing with a couple of other things here that, you go back to the source and listening to them in terms of what wells we're using versus what had been, and really just the impact of the system being that we haven't had enough rain. And so we did hear, a couple of things that, this one supplier of water could guarantee pretty much they being one of the sources for us for 3 years. But what if, what if it gets worse in those 3 years, or what if we run out of water in those after the 3 years? So there's quite a bit of moving variables here, but more and more items have surfaced and did surface today that I know Butch and Steve are going to be looking at some information and bringing back to us at the following meeting. So I agree. We need to further look at all of this.
Mr. Mayor, my idea here is that we need a bigger forum than the Port Hueneme Water Authority is a pretty obscure, lightly attended organization. And this is an issue that I'm concerned specifically about the ratepayers in the city of Port Hueneme. So I think that we need to have a specific, dedicated agenda for this particular item, and all those entities that weigh in on this equation have a role, have a stake at the table, and can address us on these issues. But I am terribly concerned that we are overcharging our residents for water that's been advertised to be of a higher quality than they're actually receiving. And that's the bottom line to me, and I hate to see the Port Hueneme Water Authority press forward with a double RO system and spend more money that's going to translate to higher costs if in fact it's not feasible or people can't pay for it. So again, my issue here is we need a forum, and I think the appropriate forum is here, not at the Water Authority.
Councilmember Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm kind of flabbergasted at this whole process. I get this flyer. I don't know why it was sent out. People call me up and ask me, is this true? And then I look at it, and it says 2015. We just sent this out the other day. I don't know how much it cost to send it out. It's a well-done magazine, but obviously it's not up to date. To me, I wondered if it's propaganda. Why are we putting out, we've got all these things and it's better than bottled water, when we have some of the worst water in the area now? Granted, there's some issues on that. Mr. Fig, Councilman Fig is totally right. We need to agendize this. We need to involve the public in this. The public has to know what is going on with our water. We can't continue just say, hey, you guys got good water, suck it up, drink it as it is. We need a town hall. We need to get the public involved. We need the public to know what the heck they're drinking and why are they paying that much for it. So I concur along with that. The second thing I want to talk about is our public safety. Our lifeguards, granted in 2 years, has been kind of shrunk. We're trying to rectify that. And our police department is kind of shrunk. And hopefully we try to rectify this. But those public safety is two critical issues in any community, any advanced society. So somehow or another we need to get on top of that, and we need to get on top of the water situation. So I concur again with Councilman Figg. We need a town hall for the water issue. We need to let the people know. We need to let them have information that's not correct, not propaganda like this. Or unless it was just sent out accidentally and somebody found 10,000 of these sitting around and they thought, how are we going to get rid of them? I don't know. Thank you so much.
Okay. The water superintendent is preparing a report for the PHWA regarding all of the potential upcoming projects and how that would affect the PHWA budget. I think that might be a good place to start if we also ask him to give a similar report to the City Council. Water issues are so varied and complicated, there's no way that we could go over all of the issues in one meeting. It's going to take a series of meetings to get the public information out there. So I would concur with Councilmember Figg's request and pass on to the city manager that perhaps even as soon as the next council meeting, maybe we can get a report from the water superintendent, the same one that he's going to be given the PHWA, if that works out. Mr. Gama wants to talk about water and sand.
Man. Thank you, Mayor Breeze. On the water, real quickly, I just want to start off by reading the first paragraph of this letter that was sent out. It says, the City of Port Hueneme is committed to providing complete and accurate information regarding the safety of the water you drink. But the information contained here is inaccurate. And so, again, I'm trying to understand, why would you tell your residents that you're doing something that you're not doing when we all know that you haven't been doing it? Over the last year, we've had several discussions on the fact that the filtration system is not in use. So on the water issue, you could start by providing accurate information, I think. Perhaps this was a mistake, I don't know, but it just misses the point. It really misses the point.
Okay, so that now brings us to item B, the 22 Network Port Hueneme water story. Is this, well, this is Tim Gallagher, but are you introducing it for us, Mr. Hickox?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Figg, members of council and staff. Tonight I'm going to present to you a brief water story. This is something that we're going to present to our consumers to help them understand a little bit about our water system, what's involved with the water quality or the cost or the availability of water itself. So these slides will, let me grab a clicker. These slides will be brief in nature. The information that we provide will be simple in nature so that it's not to get too technical or too confusing for the consumer to understand. Like we said, what we want to do is we want to provide this to the customer will be going to give you an overview of the story and tell you why and how we want to tell it. The first slide here is we want to inform the customer that it is easy to understand water once you hear about it, once you take the time to learn about it. Overcoming some of the common beliefs is critical. Water delivery is complex, and water quality doesn't just happen by itself. It takes money, it takes effort, it takes pumping, and the costs are continuing to rise no matter what we do with the water system within our own treatment facility. We really need to educate them and get them to understand how water gets delivered. We'll use a combination of pictures and written text in our presentation to them. We'll visit with them to explain both the process in English and Spanish in our presentations. One of the slides that we'll incorporate is something that similar to this that will explain the aquifers. It's very important, being on a coastal region, that people know that seawater has an impact on groundwater, and that groundwater is expensive to pump from the ground, and that water quality is impacted by water that is naturally percolating through the ground. All of those factors are important to understand and consider when you want to know what's going on with your water, such as most recently a brown water complaint. It's important that people know that the difference between a deep aquifer and a shallow aquifer and why there's a difference between them. Real quickly, the shallow aquifers are subject to high in nitrates due to the agricultural fields within our local area, and the deep aquifers are subject to high iron and manganese concentrations when the water levels subside and become low. So as you know, when we have to pump more water from the deep aquifers, then more iron and manganese concentrations are pumped upward and into the source. Surface water also plays an important part, and it's important that our consumer knows about where the other 10% of our water comes from, 10 to 20% on an average year. But we have to caution them that this water is expensive. There's a fine balance between groundwater and surface water. The quality of that water will vary. The cost of that water will vary, and it's all plays a part in the overall portfolio of our system. Not only do we have to be concerned with the quality and monitor it, but we also have to be concerned with the sources that it comes from and the costs that we pay for it. All of that will eventually trickle down to the end user. Sometimes we are forced to purchase expensive water due to operations beyond our control. There is no alternative. For example, when Procter & Gamble, when the line out by Procter & Gamble needed to be relocated by 101, we had to shut down that line for 3 weeks, and we're forced to take alternative supplies. That changes our operation beyond our control. But the customer didn't see that impact or didn't know the difference that it caused in the system. So it's important that they understand that there's operational challenges as well. The quality comes to play for us in our system. Not all treatment plants treat water equally. Some treatment plants can treat an abundance of constituents, and some treatment plants cannot. They might be limited to what they can do or perform, such as in our case with the membrane filters. Membranes remove the high salt content or the hardness of the water. They do little for other removal of constituents. In fact, some constituents, such as iron and manganese, may plug the filter membranes and make them inoperable, such is the case for us today. We will offer tours to the facility. We'll open up the doors as we did in the past when we were a demonstration facility. In fact, it's still our name today. We're still a demonstration facility, but the tours have obviously been reduced over the years. We will try to revamp that effort, open up the doors and let people come in and see and ask questions, and hopefully provide them an opportunity to become more involved in what the process is. We also have to inform them that conservation is now a way of life in California. Governor Brown recently signed the legislation that makes it a way of life. We now will be required to meet certain conservation requirements every year, which includes the wasteful use of water. So our efforts will be to get the word out about our Hueneme Gardens website, which allows our customers to go ahead and look and be interactive with a garden site to see what different plants would be acceptable to our region based on hydrologic values, evaporation, average rainfall, and those type of things. Also with the conservation, we might even develop a Garden of the Month recognition, something that will allow the participants to get involved in, and we can recognize the customers that are converting over their landscaping and making an effort to conserve the water. Part of the conservation is to share with them the city's ordinance. The city's ordinance number 698, the water waste ordinance, prohibits certain activities year-round, such as washing hard surfaces, running the sprinkler systems between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And other cost or water-saving measures are also required to be implemented year-round. It's important that the consumer knows that. It will help them with their water use. It will help us with our conservation efforts, and it will ultimately help ensure that we're using water more wisely. And finally, how will we do it is we'll be spreading the word. We've recently mailed out some pamphlets that went out in the bill stuffer, as a bill stuffer, the last couple of months. That information was specifically geared towards a water quality issue. Our information that we'll be sharing with our consumers will be more to their liking. It might be where we go to an HOA and offer a question and answer period. We'll be more specific with our operation. We'll get the word out to the folks that request our presence. We'll attend schools possibly. There's also maybe some public hearings or public meetings that we could hold here at City Hall, or we're also looking at the Hueneme Gardens down at the museum and community garden area. So we're making attempts to get the word out, get the people involved, let them become more knowledgeable about our systems and why cost is what it is, why the water quality can change, and why it's important for them to understand what's involved to bring water to their tap. So that's the presentation for tonight. If there are any questions regarding this program that we're about to embark on, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Questions of staff?
I have a question. Yeah, so what's the time frame? Thank you, Mr. Hickox, for a good presentation. What's the time frame that we're looking at to maybe cover the percentage that you want to cover here?
The schedule hasn't actually been determined yet. We're just getting started on what it is that the information that we want to get out there. We need to really develop a program or an approach to specific items. We need to gear it so that it is simplified and easy to understand. We could easily get technical and make it confusing and less interesting, to be honest with you. But our goal is to be just the opposite. We want to be proactive, so we'll get together with a schedule. I would say within the next 6 months, we'll be out and about in the community, The community garden will be up and running by then. More flyers will be developed, or different presentations will be offered. We'll reach out to the HOAs and let them know that we're available if they wish for us to attend and provide them some information.
Okay. Does this replace then that other pamphlet that we had used in the past to talk about our water situation? I know that in 2016, a few of the residents came up to tell us that maybe the verbiage we had used and some other things were inaccurate, or maybe weren't the best choice of words. Is this going to be in addition to that, or would that be replaced by this program here?
This information would be in addition.
In addition to that?
Correct.
Okay.
The document that you're referencing is a state requirement document.
Okay.
The information within it is limited. And so if there's specific words or language that you wish to get out to the community, the best way to do it is through either a bill stuffer or a newsletter or community notice or something like that, posting on the website, leaving the state required documentation aside. That way you meet the requirements of the law and you're still getting the information out. And then if you wish to provide more additional information on top of that, then these are the types of avenues for which to do that.
So maybe in this part of the outreach in the community, we can refer to that and just call it what it is, but this is where we're really educating the who, what, when, where, why, and how, because that other piece may not be. And so if we can continue to do that and then somehow sync up or be able to refer to the other, and maybe it's verbiage we can't change because it's a state mandated, but somehow I'd like for it to connect so it's not a disjointed message that we have, but it really works hand in glove. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
What's prompted the need for this kind of outreach? What's the impetus here?
Well, we know that there's been some concern with the water quality, specifically the brown water. Customers have received brown water in the past, and they've called in concerned about it. And it's a way for us to get this information out to them so that they have a better understanding, so that if another incident occurs in the future, they have an understanding of, one, what causes it, why it happens, what we can do about it, what we can't do about it, what's required, what should they do, what is it that we can provide them with information to help, them through that difficult time frame. And so that's what this information is about, is to assist our consumer.
Well, a factor that was not highlighted is there's a concern about cost. And Mayor Pro Tem Schnapp has indicated the need that we don't create a, mixed messaging to folks. And next regular meeting, we're going to have a preliminary review of a water cost rate study analysis, which will take a look at various options. It seems to me that we may be, getting out in front of some strategic planning that this city council is going to be handling regarding water supply, treatment, options to try to rein in our costs. So it would seem to me that this is material that may be a little premature, or maybe it's too late because maybe you started this effort 6-8 months ago. But now that we're coming up to a point where we're going to have some rate findings and decisions that this council is going to be making, perhaps it's best that we wait for that information to come forward, and then the council can decide how that should be folded into this equation.
That's certainly doable. This information was only being presented to show that we want to be proactive for the community. It's not to...
Yeah, but I think we're missing the obvious. We have the highest rates, of any municipal water provider, and we have the least incomes of any municipality. And so I think we're missing the obvious here. Let's don't try to sell something that really is of less importance to the people that are having to pay for the service. So that's just my opinion, that maybe this is a, and I like what our Mayor Pro Tem has said, that we don't want to send out messages that seem to go crosswise. And we're going to be in the middle of a rate discussion here shortly, so it seems to me that this kind of outreach ought to embody what comes from that discussion.
I agree very much with your presentation. I think it's been a very good one. I understand what the mayor here is saying, but educating the public about water is going to be a lifestyle now. It's going to be here forever. We could have started this 5 or 6 years ago, and I think the citizens would have been better served if we had done this, had the vision to be able to start educating everybody about the importance of water, where it comes from. I mean, most people don't even understand. It comes from the tap, and that's, they don't go much further than that. And so if we can start this program and really get the community involved in half of government, I think, is education, and educating the population, and we have to get this information out. I understand the expense of the water. It's for this community, it's very high, but perhaps by understanding where we get our water, how we treat our water, and the product that they're getting, again, we could have started this 6 years ago. So it's good job, Steve. Great.
Yeah, this was to encompass all of it, not to focus on one particular.
It's a statewide issue, and
Right.
it starts right up in the Delta, and there's a lot to understand about that. Nobody really here in Hueneme might really understand, well, what's the Delta got to do with our waterway down here? That's 500 miles away, a lot. And it's an interesting topic. As you said, though, you can make it boring if you want to, but it is a very interesting, intriguing topic. So congratulations, keep it up, and produce more.
Thank you.
There's one other thing. When we did a water rate study, there was a special committee. Mr. Hickox, I know you were here during that time. There was a special community committee that comprised 3 or 4 different people selected?
You're correct. There was a rate study committee that had 3 or 4 community citizens involved.
Right. So it wasn't just something that the council looked at, although Doug Braza and I did serve on that, but there was more representation from the community to take a look at what was being studied. So, that might be something that we incorporate, although it's not part of this, but that might be something that we incorporate, so that could get more of input from our citizens, when we undertake that study. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is a kind of a nod, sort of letting staff proceed with the education program, and then we'll wait to hear the rate study. I guess it'll be in our next regular meeting. Is that what the schedule is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So unless there's any objections, we'll proceed on that basis. Okay, then.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So next up is California Consulting, a grant writing team. And Mr. Butler, is this yours?
Right. Yes. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm
Mayor?
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there another party to be heard from? No. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Please.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council. The council has indicated to us several times, including in the